Welcome to another session of Mindful Drawing, a weekly meditation practice focused on the act of drawing and connecting with our body and our mind and the rhythms of a page and its expression with the medium that we choose. To have fun for half an hour or so exploring how drawing can bring us relaxation and creative expression at the same time. Come along and join me today as we work through a series of flowing rhythms, creating fields and networks of lines on the paper that'll hopefully capture our eyes, enthrall a bit of our own visual cortex in processing, and give us that room to just sink into the act of expression and relax in preparation for the rest of our day. Come join me for a little warm-up, and let's draw. Get a little piece of scrap paper. I just finished up a class with high school students for like a summer program at Pratt, and we start by drawing these rhythmic networks of lines, and we've been looking at that a lot for the past few weeks, so I thought I would begin there and just warm up with a few strokes, working my arm up and down, back and forth across the paper to get into it, maybe use both hands just to find my positioning. So begin anywhere and just draw a stroke, straight or wobbly, curved or not, and have it cascade from one side of the paper to the other. And as I move along, trying to maintain roughly even strokes to begin with, just to calibrate to the space of the drawing and see where things might be a little shaky, or I might need to warm up, or where things might be flowing smooth if I'm already feeling ready. In this first quick series across the page is always just to make sure that pen or pencil and those fingers are engaging. See if there's any creaks. Maybe recalibrate the back. I think after going across once, I'm just going to switch hands and work my way back across. Again, a relatively even spacing, knowing that my left hand might not be the same as my right or vice versa, and just trying to maintain some continuity of the line and the relatively even rhythm or spacing. With these slower, perhaps more deliberate, more deliberate strokes of getting warmed up and into the space, I like to bring my breath into that and help guide the speed a bit. Perhaps taking a breath in on an upstroke, repositioning and having a breath out on the downstroke, and in on the up, out on the down. Perhaps your in is on the left and out on the right, or in away and down towards. And then maybe making one final pass across the page to find some space in the ever-shrinking gaps, perhaps skipping a line or two, looking for a rhythm in what's emerging, even if it's a bit wobbly or inconsistent. Just that little bit of interruption or shift in the pattern to allow some difference to emerge from the field of lines. And a few final body adjustments, posture, gauging the wrist and the fingers, having some awareness to the position of the feet. Can they sit flat comfortably on the ground? I was perched a little on my toes, trying to relax that part of the body as well, so I don't hold any tension there going into the longer exercise. Use it as a chance to relax. I'll just transition in, fade to the same general idea on a larger, necessarily just another piece of paper. From that initial beginning, taking some time to choose a direction you'd like to begin to work in. That could be horizontal, back and forth, or up and down, diagonal, whatever feels comfortable for the space you're in. I think I'll stick with the vertical for me for now, and kind of begin in the same way with some long, deep breaths, bringing some air in, just letting it out. Pull that line towards me, choosing along the way if it has a consistency, straight or wiggly, and then taking a breath in and on the way out, letting that line extend out from my position. A breath in and then out as it flows back towards me. Using our breath to transition from an action of pushing and pulling into a rhythm of oscillation, and flowing in and out in a continuous manner of engagement with the body, with the breath, with the eyes, if you have them open, and with these external mediums, paper, pen, ink, graphite. Taking a breath in and letting it out with the line. Bringing that attention to how much really begins to take place with gradual repeated action. If through a day each breath brings with it a mark or a line or shape on a piece of paper, we'll begin to fill pages and pages over a day. Or even in this short time that this engagement with our rhythms of the body that we have some control of can guide us in an act of creating. And feel free, if you're reaching the edges or boundaries of the paper, to continue working back and forth, or perhaps change direction. Something I'm interested in is just working within the rhythm that has developed on the page with a bit of a cross grain. I'm going to just start doing short back and forth strokes within each striation or slice. After spending the time connecting with my breath, I can now let it go and do its own automatic thing. Return to a state of relaxed, natural breathing. If it feels comfortable, you can keep reinforcing that connection between action and breath, between our rhythms, of existence and our creative flow or expression. I often like to allow the other action of my hands, of the tracking of my eyes, and of the movement of my arm and shoulder and back, to give my attention to the breath a little break or rest, to trust it to be in there and relaxed from the initial attention. And then after, some detachment from that rhythm, to check back in, see how it's doing, and see if we can watch it, to follow it or witness it, rather than guide it. You just allow yourself to breathe at a normal rate and draw the lines when your body is ready to breathe. It might go very slow. Perhaps there's a line on the in and a line on the out. If you have very short marks like this, then they may become smoother, more gradual across the space as they track with the up and down of the rib cage, the expansion and contraction of the diaphragm, and sink into a rhythm that corresponds between the hand motion and the breath motion. Maybe it's 1-to-1, and finding mine to be about every other 2 strokes per out breath and 2 strokes per in breath. Just dropping into that space of the rhythm, allowing the repetition to guide our awareness into a space of openness, flexibility, and perhaps over time, a bit of creativity or inspiration. It is through that repetition and rhythm of practice that we can find productive inspiration, thing emerging from itself, from within ourselves, not necessarily influenced from the outside or reaching for representation, but a reflection of our awareness to our body, to our surroundings, to the flow of our medium, our mind, and trust in some other connection between the eyes, the visual cortex, and its adjacent tissues, looking for patterns, instructions, rhythms, and repetitions within what we see, that the processing there will begin to take over as we detach from a more guided creation into an open flow of marks. For me, I have to cross my eyes a little bit as I do this to avoid or circumvent a little of my natural tendency to want to make things line up. And if I give it a little blurriness, then I become less attached to that feeling, less attached to if some of my marks cross the space that they're working within or don't quite make it to the other side, and more engaged just in each moment of producing the short stroke, the line, the long flow along the page. To give my body that space just to move a little bit with the marks. I start to feel my shoulders just shift a bit side to side. Not too expressive, not too complicated, but just part of the action. You can also use this limited space, the constraints of a sheet of paper that we're working on, to give us a little bit of room to practice anticipation, awareness of our anticipation, how it may encourage us to move more quickly as we approach the edges or the limits, as we begin to have concern or anticipation of the finish, and we slow it down. We bring that attention back to just the moment of making a mark. Can be a good time to reconnect it with our breath. Taking a breath in and letting it out. Letting the breath guide the stroke. Maybe slow it down for a little while. A breath in with no mark, and a breath out with the flow across the page. Feelings that I find approaching as I begin to see something emerging in a drawing, to want to go faster, to want to make it into something, and for a little time just to only make it. Reflecting back on the repetition and the consistent application in time that this few minutes can produce a huge density of potential visual relationships and organizations, that with some clarity, focus, and relaxation, I could continue all day if I had to. Or if all I have are these 20 minutes, this will end up somewhere into something, a reflection of my state of being, my own visual and aesthetic background noise, influences, maybe even some intentions, becomes a new and unique creative act. As we draw for a few minutes, using that as a place of contemplation and reflection, where else in my day-to-day can some time to step back and breathe with the situation, to approach it with a rhythm and repetition, the detachment as well as awareness, help me to make creative decisions, to trust the marks I might be making on a situation, to have an inward eye or focus on what I am doing at this moment. And an awareness that many accumulated small actions expand and grow into a larger field, tapestry, or composition. We don't have to rush to the end, but we do have to make all of the stuff in between for it to exist. So you continue to draw. We bring ourselves back to an awareness of where we are and what's around us. Start that through the body, just to check in on how are the fingers feeling. Do you feel that lump where the pen or pencil has been pressing in? A nice callus there, writing and drawing a lot. Do I feel any kinks or maybe fluidity in my wrist or my feet sitting flat on the floor? Can I relax them? Is my back tight or maybe loose in any place? Can I savor that looseness or breathe into the spot of tightness? Just as I scan around and see where this time of meditation and practice may have placed some aspects of myself as my attention was elsewhere. Maybe wobble the neck a little from side to side. Had some interesting things with my eyes. They've been very focused forward on a narrow field. Brings a little wobbliness to them to move it around. Let them get back into their actions and rhythms of darting across the space, trying to pull in the whole visual field through the center and simulate a world around us. And taking a few breaths, connected or disconnected, just to restable the diaphragm in the body. Maybe a last few minutes to reflect on where you might have been in your head or gone in the action. For me, I kept oscillating between how long does the silence last? What will I do in 20 minutes? to just being in the silence and drawing some lines. And that's a normal part of any meditation. The mind doesn't like to be still or ignored. Things are always percolating. The electricity is firing. And they come, they go. And an action that can help us center, stabilize, and just ride those ebbs and flows of thoughts. So that's drawing or breathing techniques, counting, meditation, walking, or just sitting and observing the sky, trees, some clouds, a pet or a friend. We can let those thoughts flow in and out through an action. To prepare us for our day, for a meeting, for a long session of creating, just to wind down and relax in the evening and prepare to allow that other mind to take over as we recharge, prepare for a new day. Pull myself away with a few final slow breath strokes to not rush to the end. Thank you for sharing in that journey with me. I hope you're having a wonderful day, whether this is how you start your morning or end your evening, or somewhere in between as you just take a little break for yourself to relax and use drawing as part of your meditative practice. If you like what you see here, please share with your friends, give it a like down below, and subscribe for more weekly content. As the summer winds down and the fall approaches, we're about to begin another semester of learning. And I'll post several videos that come from a more technical aspect of drawing, describing geometry as points in space and moving them around to connect with lines, planes, shapes, volumes, and eventually form, as we build up techniques from the simplest tracking of points to shading and rendering, be able to express our ideas and see how those techniques could feed back into a daily practice of drawing and developing a medium of communication, representation, and creative expression. Have a wonderful day, and as always, draw well. Now that you've got a bit of a start here through that practice meditation session, I always like to take a little time and just see where the drawing might go. I'll continue the technique out, then look for new opportunities, and just have a little fun here drawing for a while. I find it interesting that visually, those original vertical lines that just divided the page horizontally into a relatively even rhythm have now vanished or merged into the field of just subtle variations, shifts, and realignments, and the secondary layer of emphasis, heaviness to a few of the lines that allow it to emerge out into a larger power. And it inspires me to dig in a little deeper if time allows, and perhaps find some more layers to this pattern and see where it goes. This nice session of little casual drawing, just letting the page unfold and establish its space here in the world. After giving myself that time, I'm feeling relaxed and energized to jump into the rest of the day, using both oscillating polarities of that spectrum to help me be creative.